I found out last week. Did you take a test? Yes. Show me. She froze. I threw it away. Doctor, I haven't gone yet. Then how do you know? I just know. I stared at her for several seconds, then quietly asked, Are you actually pregnant? She didn't answer. Instead, she started crying. Real tears this time. Or at least they looked real. You don't believe anything I say anymore. I felt awful for one brief moment. Then I remembered the conference, the hotel, the messages, the fake Instagram story, the mortgage text, the abuse accusations. I asked again, Are you pregnant? Another long silence. Finally, no. Just, no. She wiped her eyes. I panicked. I couldn't even react. She had lied about carrying a child to stop me from ending the marriage. That was the moment every remaining piece of love I had for her disappeared. Not dramatically, not with rage. It simply ended, like a light switch being turned off. I realized I wasn't looking at the woman I'd promised forever to. I was looking at someone willing to say absolutely anything if it bought her one more chance to stay in control. And once I understood that, the next decision became surprisingly easy. The next morning, I woke up after maybe 2 hours of sleep. Emily was already gone. For one stupid second, I wondered if she'd finally realized what she'd done and left on her own. Then I noticed my car keys weren't where I always kept them. Neither was my laptop. I walked into the garage. My car was still there. The keys were sitting on the driver's seat. Weird. I went back inside and looked for my laptop. Gone. I called Emily. Straight to voicemail. Then my email started blowing up. Password changed. Recovery email updated. New login detected. My stomach dropped. She knew my passwords. Not because she'd hacked anything. Because we'd trusted each other once. I rushed to my office and logged in from my desktop. Too late. My personal email had been locked. Cloud storage, locked. Even one of my social media accounts had been accessed. Fortunately, my bank and work accounts had two-factor authentication tied to my phone, so she couldn't get into those. I was still trying to regain access when my phone rang. It was my younger sister. David, what the hell happened? What do you mean? I just got a call from Emily. Of course. What did she say? My sister hesitated. She said you had some kind of mental breakdown. I closed my eyes. She said you've been hallucinating. There it was. Again. Not just paranoid. Now I was apparently unstable. My sister continued. She said you're accusing everyone of crazy things. She told Mom you're refusing to take your medication. I almost laughed. What medication? Exactly. Within an hour, I learned she'd already called my parents, 2 of our closest friends, one of our neighbors, and even my aunt. Every single conversation had the same theme. David is having a breakdown. David is imagining an affair. David needs help. If Claire hadn't sent me every screenshot the night before, I honestly don't know if I could have defended myself. The lies were that convincing. I called my parents and asked them to come over. They arrived an hour later. Emily showed up 10 minutes after they did. She walked into the living room carrying coffee like nothing had happened. Morning, everyone. Nobody answered. She looked confused. My mom said you told her I needed psychiatric help. Emily sighed dramatically. I was worried. You told her I'm hallucinating. I said your behavior scared me. You said I was refusing medication. I thought you were. My dad frowned. You thought he was? Emily nodded confidently. Stress can do terrible things. She was incredible. She never fully committed to one lie if she could hide inside vague wording instead. She didn't say I was diagnosed. She implied it. She didn't say she'd caught me hallucinating. She suggested it. Enough to plant doubt. Not enough to be easily confronted. I picked up my phone. Mom. Dad. I want you to look at something. I handed them Claire's screenshots. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. My mother started crying. My father kept scrolling. Hotel after hotel. Message after message. Then he stopped on one photo. Emily and Ryan kissing outside a restaurant. The timestamp was my birthday. The same birthday she'd told me she was stuck at work. Dad slowly looked up. Is this real? Emily answered before I could. They're edited. I said nothing. Dad looked back down. He zoomed in. Another screenshot. A video. Another message. Finally, he quietly asked her, Are all of these fake too? Emily hesitated, then doubled down. Yes. My father placed the phone on the table. I've known you for 11 years. She nodded. I have never seen someone lie this easily. For the first time since this nightmare started. Emily looked genuinely embarrassed. Not because she'd betrayed me. Because someone else had finally stopped believing her. She stood up abruptly. I can't do this. She headed toward the door. Then she turned around. You know what? She pointed at me. I cheated because you stopped being a husband. Nobody responded. You stopped listening. Silence. You cared more about work than me. Still silence. You pushed me away. My mother finally spoke. No. Emily blinked. No. No. Mom stood up. I've watched my son drive across town at midnight because you wanted ice cream. Emily said nothing. I've watched him leave family dinners early because you weren't feeling well. Silence. I've watched him defend you every single time someone criticized you. Emily looked away. Mom continued. You may have been unhappy. That happens. You may have wanted a divorce. That happens too. But don't rewrite history to make betrayal sound noble. The room went completely quiet. Emily grabbed her purse. You'll all regret taking his side. Then she slammed the front door so hard one of the picture frames fell off the wall. Nobody moved for a while. Finally, Dad looked at me. You need a lawyer. I know. And change every password you have. I already started. And son, yeah, this isn't your fault. Those words broke me. Not because I suddenly believed I'd been perfect. I wasn't. No marriages. But for months I'd been told I was crazy, controlling, abusive, paranoid, broken. Hearing someone I trusted say, with complete certainty, that I wasn't responsible for another person's choices. It felt like finally coming up for air after spending months underwater. That afternoon I met with a divorce attorney. By the end of the meeting, I had a checklist. Separate finances. Document everything. Communicate in writing whenever possible. Do not engage in emotional arguments. Do not believe verbal promises. It felt cold. Transactional. Nothing like the life I'd imagined when I stood at the altar 8 years earlier. But for the first time in months, I also felt something unexpected. Not happiness. Not relief. Control. A feeling Emily had slowly taken away from me one lie at a time. And I wasn't going to hand it back ever again. The weeks after I filed for divorce were probably the strangest period of my entire life. Not because of the legal process. Honestly, that part was almost easier. Paperwork made sense. Forms made sense. Deadlines made sense. People didn't. Especially Emily. The person I had spent 11 years with suddenly became someone I barely recognized. The first few days after I met with the lawyer, she went completely silent. No angry messages. No accusations. No dramatic phone calls. Nothing. I thought maybe she had finally accepted what was happening. I was wrong. On day 5, I got a message from her. I hope you're happy. That's it. No context. No apology. No responsibility. Just blame. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Old me would have replied immediately. I would have tried to explain. I would have written paragraphs. I would have begged her to understand. New me just put my phone down. The lawyer had told me something simple. Stop trying to get closure from someone who benefits from keeping you confused. That sentence changed the way I looked at everything. Because I realized something. I had spent months trying to solve a puzzle where the other person kept changing the pieces. Every time I found evidence, Emily created a new explanation. Every time I accepted one explanation, another contradiction appeared. There was never going to be a perfect confession. There was never going to be a moment where she sat down and said, "You're right. I hurt you. I'm sorry." I had been waiting for a version of Emily that didn't exist anymore. Or maybe never existed. A week later, she asked to meet. I almost said no. Actually, I did say no. Then she sent, "It's about the house." So I agreed. We met at a coffee shop near our neighborhood. She arrived 20 minutes late. Of course. She sat across from me wearing the same perfume she wore when she first started going out with Ryan. I noticed. I hated that I noticed. Some memories are cruel like that. I miss you. That was her first sentence. Not I'm sorry. Not, I understand why you're hurt. I miss you. I looked at her. Why? She frowned. What do you mean? Do you miss me? Or do you miss having someone who believed everything you said? Her expression changed. You really think I'm that horrible? I think you hurt me. I made mistakes. Many. She looked down. For a moment, I thought maybe she was finally going to be honest. I know I messed up. I waited. I was unhappy. There it was. The beginning of the justification. Again, I was lonely. Then you should have talked to me. I tried. When she opened her mouth, nothing came out. Because we both knew. She hadn't. Not honestly. She had complained. She had criticized. She had withdrawn. But she never sat me down and said, "I am unhappy and I want us to fix this." Instead, She found someone else. Then she rewrote the story, so the affair became my fault. I never wanted to hurt you. I looked at her. You lied about being pregnant. Her eyes filled with tears. I panicked. You accused me of being mentally unstable. I was scared. You told people I abused you. I was trying to explain things. No. I shook my head. That's what you keep doing. What? Changing the wording. She looked confused. You don't say I lied. You say I panicked. You don't say I accused you. You say I explained things. You don't say I cheated. You say I was unhappy. She didn't answer. Because she knew. For the first time, she couldn't escape through wording. The truth was sitting there. Simple. Ugly. Clear. I want another chance. I looked out the window. People walking by. Cars passing. Normal life continuing while mine was falling apart. Why? She looked hurt. Because I love you. I nodded slowly. I believe you might. She looked surprised. But love isn't enough. What? Someone can love you and still destroy you. She started crying. I can change. Maybe she believed that. Maybe part of her did. But change isn't saying the right thing after getting caught. Change is what you do when nobody is watching. And for 8 months, when nobody was watching, she chose him. I need you to understand something, I said. What? Even if you had never cheated, the lying would have destroyed us. She wiped her face. I don't understand. I could have survived someone saying, I'm unhappy. I could have survived a divorce. I could have survived knowing the truth. But I can't build a life with someone who looks me in the eyes and makes me question reality. She was quiet. For once, completely quiet. Then she asked, So that's it? I thought about the question. About the house. The dog. The vacations. The photos. The person I thought I'd grow old with. It has to be. She nodded. Then she did something I didn't expect. She apologized. Actually apologized. I'm sorry. 2 words. 2 words I had waited months to hear. And somehow, they didn't fix anything. They didn't erase the messages. They didn't erase the nights alone. They didn't erase the way I had started doubting my own memory. They were just words. Important words. But only words. We talked about practical things after that. The house would be sold. We'd split the remaining assets. Max would stay with me because, honestly, he had spent the entire marriage following me everywhere and became my shadow during the worst weeks. When I got home that evening, I sat on the floor with him for almost an hour. He rested his head on my lap. And for the first time since discovering everything, I cried. Not angry tears. Not the kind that come from betrayal. Just grief. Because I wasn't only losing a wife. I was losing the future I thought I had. The holidays we'd planned. The family we talked about. The old version of us. I finally understood something. Healing wasn't going to mean forgetting what happened. It meant accepting that the life I wanted was gone and deciding what I was going to build afterward. And slowly, very slowly, I started doing that. The divorce took almost 9 months. I wish I could say it was a clean break. It wasn't. Nothing about this situation was simple. Even after everything, there were moments where my brain would randomly forget what happened. I'd wake up and for a few seconds think, maybe yesterday was just a nightmare. Then I'd see the empty side of the bed. Or I'd remember the messages. Or I'd remember standing in my own kitchen while my wife tried to convince me that reality wasn't real. And the pain would come back. But it changed over time. At first, every memory felt like a knife. Eventually, they became scars. Still there. Still part of me. Just not controlling every moment. The strangest part was seeing how differently Emily behaved once she realized I was actually leaving. During the first few weeks, she acted like I was having a temporary emotional reaction. She kept saying things like, You're just hurt right now. You'll calm down. You'll realize this was a mistake. She genuinely believed I would eventually return to the old version of myself. The version that apologized after every argument. The version that accepted every explanation. The version that trusted her even when the facts didn't make sense. That person was gone. Not because I wanted him gone. Because she forced me to become someone who could protect himself. A few months into the divorce process, something unexpected happened. Ryan contacted me. I almost didn't answer. His name appeared on my phone, and I just stared at it. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part of me wanted to know why. So I answered. Hello. There was silence. Then, David. Yeah. This is Ryan. I know. Another pause. I wanted to apologize. I laughed quietly. Not because it was funny. Because I honestly didn't know what else to do. Okay. I know that doesn't fix anything. No. I made a terrible decision. Yes. He took a breath. I thought she was leaving you. I said nothing. She told me your marriage was basically over. She said you were separated emotionally. She said you both agreed it was just a matter of time. I closed my eyes. Of course. Same story. Different person. Did you believe her? I wanted to. That answer bothered me. Because it was honest. More honest than anything Emily had given me in months. I should have asked questions. Yes. I should have realized there was another side. Yes. I know I hurt you. I sat quietly. Then I said, you didn't just hurt me. I know. You hurt Claire. I know. You hurt yourself. I know. We didn't talk much longer. Before hanging up, Ryan said something interesting. She told me you were the problem. I looked out the window. She told me the same thing about you. Silence. Then he said, yeah, that was the only thing we agreed on. Emily had a way of making every person around her feel like they were the problem while she avoided looking at herself. I never spoke to him again. I didn't forgive him. Not fully. But I stopped carrying anger toward him every day. Holding on to rage felt like keeping a connection to people who had already taken enough from me. Around the 7th month of the divorce, I ran into Emily unexpectedly. I was at a grocery store. She was standing in the produce section. We both froze. For a second, it felt like seeing a stranger who looked familiar. She looked different. Tired. Not physically. Emotionally. The confidence was gone. The certainty. The attitude that she could control every conversation. She looked at my cart. You're still buying those? I almost smiled. She was referring to a cereal brand she always hated. I guess I am. A small, awkward silence. Then, how are you? I thought about lying. Saying good. The easy answer. Instead, I said, better. She nodded. I heard you're doing okay. From who? She looked away. People. People. Another vague answer. I almost found it funny. Even after everything, she still couldn't just say things directly. I wanted to tell you something. I waited. I'm sorry. I nodded. Thank you. She looked surprised. That's it. What do you want me to say? I don't know. I accept your apology. Doesn't that mean? No. Her face fell slightly. I can accept that you're sorry and still know leaving was the right choice. She looked down. I really did love you. I believed her. And that was the hardest part. Because I don't think she was a cartoon villain. I don't think she woke up every morning thinking, how can I destroy David today? People are more complicated than that. I think she wanted excitement, validation, a different life. And instead of having a difficult conversation, she built a fantasy where she was the victim and everyone else was responsible for her choices. That doesn't make her evil, but it also doesn't make her someone I could trust again. Before we left, she said, I wish I could go back. I looked at her. I do too. She looked hopeful for a second. Then I continued. But not to fix the marriage. To fix the moment when I started ignoring my instincts. She didn't say anything. I walked away. And for the first time, I didn't look back. A year after everything started, the divorce was finalized. The day I signed the last paper, I expected some huge emotional moment. I thought I'd feel free, or devastated, or something dramatic. Instead, I felt calm. Just calm. I went home. Max was waiting at the door. The house was quieter than before. Smaller somehow. But it was mine. My life was mine again. I started therapy. Not because Emily was right about me being crazy. She wasn't. I started because betrayal changes the way you see yourself and other people. I needed to understand why I ignored my own feelings for so long. Why I accepted explanations that didn't make sense. Why I kept trying to prove I was worthy of honesty from someone who had already decided not to give it. Therapy helped. Friends helped. Time helped. I learned that trust isn't just believing someone. It's also trusting yourself enough to notice when something feels wrong. For months, I thought the biggest betrayal was Emily cheating. It wasn't. The biggest betrayal was how close I came to abandoning myself, trying to save something that only one person was fighting for. Update. 1 year later. What I learned after losing my marriage. I wasn't sure if I was ever going to post an update. When I first wrote everything down, I was angry. Not the kind of anger where you want revenge. The kind where you sit alone at night, and your brain keeps replaying every conversation, every lie, every moment you ignored your own instincts. I think I posted originally because I needed someone outside my situation to tell me I wasn't crazy. And a lot of people did. Some comments were harsh. Some told me I should have left sooner. Some asked why I stayed. At first, those comments bothered me. A lot. because they felt like they were blaming me. But after time passed, I understood something. They weren't all blaming me. Some people were pointing out something I needed to hear. I spent too long trying to save a relationship with someone who wasn't protecting it. That's the lesson I carry now. Not, never trust anyone. Not, all people cheat. Not, marriage is pointless. Those are easy conclusions when you're hurt. The harder truth is that good relationships require two people who are willing to be honest, especially when honesty is uncomfortable. Emily and I finalized the divorce about a year ago. We don't talk much anymore. Mostly just practical things because there are still a few financial details that occasionally come up. The funny thing is, she's actually much calmer now. No more dramatic accusations. No more long explanations. No more trying to convince everyone that she was the victim. I don't know if she changed or if she just stopped needing to defend herself. Maybe both. A few months ago, she sent me a message. It was longer than usual. She apologized again. This time, there were no excuses. No, you made me feel. No explanation about why she did it. Just, I hurt you, and I understand now that I was responsible for my choices. I read that message several times, and honestly, it felt good. Not because I wanted her back. I didn't. But because a part of me had been waiting for that acknowledgement. I didn't respond with a long emotional paragraph. I didn't reopen old wounds. I simply wrote, "Thank you for saying that. I hope you find peace." And I meant it. That surprised me. A year earlier, I couldn't imagine wishing her well. I thought healing meant forgetting her. It doesn't. Healing means remembering without being destroyed by the memory. I still think about our marriage sometimes. 11 years is a long time. You don't erase that because someone hurt you. There are songs I can't listen to, places I avoid, random things that remind me of a life that doesn't exist anymore. But I don't hate those memories. They were real. The good moments happened. The laughs happened. The love I felt was real. The fact that she betrayed me doesn't mean every single moment was fake. That was another thing I had to learn. Sometimes a relationship can contain both beautiful memories and painful truths. One doesn't erase the other. I also learned something about red flags. Before this happened, I thought cheating always looked obvious. I thought there would be some dramatic moment where everything became clear. There wasn't. It was small things. The feeling that conversations weren't honest. The constant need to defend simple questions. The way every problem somehow became your fault. The way someone makes you apologize for noticing their behavior. Those things matter. I'm not saying every change means someone is cheating. People have bad periods. People struggle. People change. But communication should make you feel closer. It shouldn't make you feel like you're on trial. If you constantly feel like you have to prove that your feelings are valid, something is wrong. I also want to address something I see a lot in comments on posts like this. People ask, "Why didn't you leave immediately?" Because it's not that simple. When you're inside a relationship, you're not just looking at evidence. You're looking at years of memories, promises, plans, the person you thought someone was. You don't wake up one morning and stop loving someone because they hurt you. Sometimes your heart takes longer than your brain to understand what happened. And that's okay. Everyone moves at their own pace. The biggest thing I would tell anyone going through something similar is this. Trust yourself. Not every suspicion is correct. Not every uncomfortable feeling means betrayal. But don't ignore yourself just because someone tells you that you're irrational. The person who loves you should not need you to abandon your own reality in order to stay with them. I spent months asking, how do I make her understand? The better question was, why am I fighting so hard to be understood by someone who refuses to listen? That question changed everything. Today, my life is different. Not perfect. Different. I moved into a smaller place. I made new friends. I started doing things I stopped doing during my marriage. I travel occasionally. I spend more time with my family. I take Max on long walks. I laugh more. The strange thing is, I didn't realize how exhausted I was until I wasn't exhausted anymore. I didn't realize how much energy I spent trying to solve problems that weren't mine to solve. I'm not posting this because I think I have everything figured out. I don't. I still have bad days. I still have moments where I wonder how things could have been different. But I no longer wish I could go back. Because going back would mean returning to the version of myself who constantly questioned his own judgment. And I don't want to be that person again. So yeah, that's my update. My marriage ended. The future I imagined disappeared. Someone I loved hurt me in a way I never expected. But I'm still here. And I'm okay. Actually, I'm better than okay. I finally trust myself again. And after losing almost everything, That was the one thing I needed to get back.